Turn back time. Turn back time from my friend Jody Erskine over at Torn Sage on YouTube. Follow and subscribe if you can. Kenny B here, Cities and Suburbs. A quick video for you tonight. And boy, we're 23 days already into 2023. Wow, you know. A month ago, I was scrambling around for Christmas gifts. It just goes like that. Tonight we had a lot of snow on the ground, and you guys are into football. Some great football yesterday, the 22nd. And actually on Saturday, you know, we get some great football teams, NFL teams. Not our beloved Patriots. I'm not sporting it tonight, but still haven't given up on the Pats. We'll see what happens. I think the NFL like overrates quarterbacks, by the way. I mean, you throw the ball, you catch the ball, right? Kind of like baseball. Throw the ball, catch the ball. Okay, so we have a new governor kicking off in 2023. And Governor Maura Healey has just had filed an immediate needs bond bill for $987 million for housing and economic development programs. Her administration would like to be known, or the legacy, as the driving economic development. Now, we got a long way to go before we start throwing, you know, money at problems. You know, our cities have problems, our towns have problems, and so it looks like so $987 million. Sounds like a lot of bread, but I mean, Mookie Betts going to make that at the end of his career. Nearly $1 billion bond bill authorizes fundings for cities and towns, including targeted funds for rural small towns, okay, to support libraries, I get it, community infrastructure, seaport development. I'm in Charlton, so that doesn't mean too much to me. And housing, tourism, also to expand broadband in rural areas, which is a real bad, it's a bad problem in terms of, you know, you guys know, you get into the dead zones, but you necessarily don't live there, you know. I mean, I moved out to Charlton from Worcester, and I digress. But in the 1980s, and when I moved into Charlton in 1988, there was no cable. I had this old antenna on top of and I had to crank it from the basement. It was on top of the roof. And I could get Channel 3 out of Hartford better than I could get, at that time, Worcester, I believe, still had Channel 27 and the Boston networks. So, go figure, right? The bill also proposes 110. Now this is, again, it's a bond bill. It's got to pass legislation. $987 million, but it also proposes $110 million in authorization for housing creation, preservation, including affordable rental housing. We're going to get into that in a minute, but and by the way, this is going to be, I'm going to keep posting on this because I'm going to be talking about redlining and how that goes back to the 30s, and how we're still struggling with that systematic discrimination to access of not just better housing, but a better life, right? Everybody wants a better life. But $110 million in authorization for housing creation, preservation, including affordable rental housing, public housing, you know, creating urban poverty, climate resilient housing, okay, and transit-oriented development. Now, Maura Healey did say, and I was able to watch that you know, her inaugural speech, that no, you if you want a sustainable community, people have to move back and forth. I get that, but I look at $987 million. Sounds like a bunch of bread, but it's going to go to bridges, roads, programs, broadband, and by the time you get done with that, you have to that money is going to have to retain people that can get this done. So it could be 80% people who are gonna, actually get paid to maybe get this done, to 20% of the money actually going to infrastructure and projects, broadband, affordable housing. I mean, what does affordable housing mean anyway? Here in Worcester right now, Worcester residents are spending more than 30% of their income on rental. Worcester's a rental town, and I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to make this a series because it's all about the redlining in America. Okay, if you don't know what redlining is, go back to 1936, when cities around the country, 250 plus cities, were carved up by the Federal Housing Administration, the creation of the Federal Housing Administration, and the home loan organizations that were set up to give primarily white people an opportunity to get out of, neighborhoods that were deemed redlined, hazardous, blue, green, yellow, gray, blue, and Worcester has still seeing that in Piedmont Street, and we're going back to the 30s where some of these communities in Worcester were deemed redlined, meaning that they were redlined by the federal government, meaning that we're not investing in these communities. We're disinvesting in these communities because that's where undesirable people live, which, really pisses me the frig off because, in the 1800s, during the Industrial Revolution, America had more jobs for people than we actually had people here. More jobs, less people. We imported people, we invited people, and then we segregated people. And that's where systemic practices and discrimination came in, and not offering people in minority communities a leg up. And the way we did that, by the way, I believe, was to create affordable housing. We bulldozed over, old undesirable neighborhoods, put a freeway there, and put public housing in, right? And people who live in public housing, I'm so flipping glad they have a place to live. But if they had a choice, they would probably be somewhere else, because it's that is the systematic creation of urban poverty, I believe. Affordable housing, the government has done nothing. We need, if we're gonna be in Worcester, Worcester's growing, and I get it, we have these outside developers coming in and putting the restaurants in and this and that. Well, they want a return on their investment, right? And the people who return the investment are the people that actually have disposable income, whatever that means. However that term was created, it's beyond me. Disposable income, discretionary. Yes, I have money to go to Pub 99. And people who are still living in red-lined areas, Main South, Piedmont Street. Okay, by the way, a lot of these were very historic at the turn of the century, 1800s. It's where Main Street expanded in Worcester, and all the doctors and the lawyers and Clark University sprung up. But boy, oh boy. So I get, where the government is, it's always about throwing money at it. But are we putting money toward, good infrastructure in terms of transportation, and that's I'm talking about things I could go on 100 years about this stuff, and you guys know that, so I want to pull it back into a context. Older cities are in terrible shape. Worcester is, if you're a renter in Worcester, which that's the main population of Worcester, you're renting old infrastructure, old inventory, 3-deckers. They're old. That's old inventory, by the way. Someday, that's going to meet the wrecking ball too, because it's just, it's just old, and old dies, and it should be that. But that's what we're looking at in Worcester. We're what's going to replace that, and you can't bulldoze over old places just because they're undesirable. We're going to put this in, that in, and there's still going to be that income disparity. When you're paying more for your rent, more for food, you live in a area where you don't even have access to a good food supply, or the disinvestment in an area, and that's what redlining is. And until Worcester gets over that, you're going to be a middle-class city. Again, we're infatuated with the whole Canal District thing, but so $987 million by the new administration. I've been hearing this a long time. I have not seen any dollars that have gone into any kind of program that have benefited and bolstered and uplifted people who are in generational poverty, which would be Plumley Village, your Great Brook Valley, So give me a break. Anyway, not trying to be Nelly negative here, but, Maura Haley, you can be the driving economic development governor. Let's see that, because I've heard it before. Well, let's see where that goes. All right, guys. Let's fix our problems, and let's, lend a hand to each other if you can. All right, cool. Take care. Kenny Beers signing out.